welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel we look at microfiche from the past, old newspaper articles in the public domain. We look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and see what we can learn from them. On this microfiche time capsule, we are looking back at the Ensign from February 1975. And this article is entitled Elder L. Tom Perry of the Council of the 12 by Lee Perry, who I believe is his son. So what do I know about him? I feel like he doesn't really feel historical to me either. Just like the last couple have been. Boyd K. Packer, I felt this way about as well. And that's because he died within my consciousness of the, the general authorities. 2015 also. So he and Boyd K. Packer died around the same time-ish. Yeah. So that is why it feels so modern, yeah? L. Tom Perry had a kind of a strange accent. He was like a rural accent. He said words like carners, yeah, instead of corners, things like that. And I know that he was very tall. And if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm mixing him up with Boyd K. Packer, I think that he served in Japan during World War II and that he helped build up the country after the war. But I don't think they knew each other, but they both did that. I think so anyway. Unless I'm getting him mixed up with Boyd K. Packer, but I'm pretty sure that L. Tom Perry was also in Japan post-war. Past that, I don't know that I know a lot about his life. And so it'll be interesting to read more about him, yes? So first of all, here's a picture of him. It's a very portraity picture, but I like this picture. He looks really young here to me because I'm used to seeing him as older than that. Has kind of appley cheeks, and I don't know, he looks really sweet, like somebody you could joke around with and have fun with. That's just my impression. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look at the article. It begins with an editor's note. As final preparations were being made for the publication of this issue, Sister Perry passed away December 14th, 1974. Okay, that is quite early on. 1974. Can you... So I am going to assume that he remarried after that, because that is a very long time to be single if he didn't. So, I'm not sure. But that's really sad to me as well, is that his wife passed while they were preparing to publish this article, which means that they may refer to her as being alive. Yeah? Alright. The newest apostle is an appealing blend of gusto, creativity, business experience, and pioneer-style faith. I like that. Shortly before his death in 1966, L. Tom Perry Sr. wrote a life story that ends with some interesting reflections about his children. He recalls his eldest daughter Zeta, a brilliant child, his next daughter Gay, a sweet child, and his youngest daughter Mignon. Okay, Mignon is French, it means cute. I don't know, it's really strange to me that you would call a child that, but okay. A highly successful woman in her life's work. He calls his second oldest son Theodore, our genius. He notes with pride that his youngest son Robert is steadily advancing professionally. Of his eldest son Tom, he merely states, "Tom has surprised us." Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like labeling your children anyway. Saying brilliant, this child's sweet, this child, but then they didn't even label Mignon, a highly successful woman in her life's work is all they said. And then they labeled the second son genius, and then saying that Robert was really steadily advancing. But I don't like this. I don't like this. I have two children, but I wouldn't label them, They're different, but they're very different personality-wise, but I can't imagine labeling one. I don't know, this is really strange to me. I know some people do it, but I can't imagine doing that. Alright. This was 8 years before Elder L. Tom Perry was called by President Spencer W. Kimball and sustained by the membership of the church as the 81st member of the Council of the 12 Apostles in this dispensation. So his father said that Tom surprised him before he was called to the Council of the 12. Okay. Oh, this is already weird. Okay, his family heritage and special experiences show that Elder Perry has been prepared by the Lord for his calling. He has diligently worked at polishing his character and his ability to be worthy of the callings that have come to him in the kingdom of God. Okay, that's legit. Born August 5th, 1922. Okay, that makes him actually older than Boyd K. Packer. Yeah, 2 years older. In Logan, Utah, Lowell Tom Perry. Okay. His first name is Lowell. He's the first son and fourth child of Elsie Nora Sawney and Leslie Thomas Perry. Oh. Okay, I got it. I thought his first name was Lee for some reason. Lowell is his first name. Lowell Tom Perry. And his father was Leslie Thomas Perry. And so he also went by Tom then? L. Tom Perry Sr. is what they were calling him earlier. That's interesting that he would name his oldest son basically the exact same name, like L. Tom. But I don't know, like that's interesting that he chose a different L name besides Leslie. Let's call him Lowell. You know, it doesn't really feel like a first name anyway. Okay, so first son and fourth child. So he has 3 older sisters, yeah? He was born into a family of notable pioneer heritage. Elder Perry's great-great-grandfather, Gustavus Adolphus Perry, and his family shared in a wonderful experience while living in Lewis, Essex, New York. Lewis, Essex? In 1830, which ultimately prepared them for the coming of 2 Mormon missionaries 2 years later. Oh, wow, they're really early converts. 1832? Like that is the early days of the church. In the Perry family history is written, the front door opened and they heard someone coming through the house toward the kitchen, where the family was assembled. When he entered, they saw that it was an old man with a white flowering beard. Flowering beard, I always think that's a funny phrase. Although it was a stormy night, there were no signs of raindrops on his clothes. He said, God bless you, and asked for food, and if he could spend the night with them. Although they were poor and had little bread, they gave him food and shelter. When he came in, he had a knapsack on his back with a little pup, which he gave to the children to play with. Okay. During the evening, he took from his pocket a book, from which he read to them, telling them it was soon to come forth, and telling them to get one at their first opportunity. And he was leaving them the next morning, he promised them that they would never want for bread, which promise was literally fulfilled. That very day, a man who owed them some money asked if they would take wheat for the debt. Okay, that's interesting. Sometime after the visit of the old gentleman, 2 elders came with the Book of Mormon, and the family obtained one. In reading the book, they recognized passages of scripture the stranger had read to them on the night of his visit. In the year 1832, the family joined the LDS Church. That is so cool. Like, imagine having that long of a legacy within the church. That is really cool. It's kind of impressive. I mean, my family didn't join the church that early. I don't know. Like, that's interesting. Gustavus Adolphus Perry and his family later joined an independent company of saints and crossed the plains, arriving in the Salt Lake Valley in 1853. Okay. They settled in 3 Mile Creek in what is now Box Elder County and did much to pioneer that area. The name was later changed from 3 Mile Creek to Perry in honor of the Perry family. Well, that's cool. Okay, I'm assuming it's pronounced Sawney. The reason I'm pronouncing it this way is because of Alma Sawney, and that's how he pronounced his name. But I'm assuming they're related, but they might not be. If it's more of a German pronunciation, it would be Sonne, which means sun, like sun in the sky. So I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, and it's a Danish family line, so which I believe the pronunciation is more similar to German, so maybe I should switch to Sonne. Yeah, I don't know. So let's see if we can pronounce some of these words. I will do my best. I do not speak Danish, so please correct me if I completely butcher this. All right? Okay, I'm gonna go with Zona, yeah? Until we get to modern day, in which case we'll change to Sani, yeah? Okay, the Zona line of Elder Perry's ancestry was a deeply religious Danish family. Ola Nielsen Zona, yeah, Elder Perry's great-great-great-grandfather, was the parson of the Osterlasker Church on the island of Bornholm, Denmark. I apologize if I mispronounced any of those. Like I said, I'm giving it a German pronunciation. All right. Elder Perry's grandfather, Niels Christian Zona, was baptized in 1872 after coming to Utah, and he settled in Logan, Cache County. Okay. Elder Perry recalls his grandfather's broad shoulders, symbolic of the physical stamina and his strength of character. Well, El Tom Perry also had broad shoulders. Maybe he got it from that side of the family. So Niels Christian Zona and his wife, Lisa Christiansen Zona, were the parents of Elder Perry's mother, Nora, and were also the parents of Elder Alma Sani, who has served since 1941 as an assistant to the Council of the 12. And I know that he pronounces his name Sani, which I'm not sure, since it's so close to that Danish family line. I guess it was 2 generations removed. Like, why they would change the pronunciation, But, okay, we're switching now to Sani. Maybe that is closer to the Danish pronunciation. I don't know. All right, Elder Perry's father left the farm where his family lived near Ryrie, Idaho, to attend the LDS high school in Salt Lake City. His father, Henry Morgan Perry, gave him $5, a train ticket, and his blessing, and sent him on his way. In Salt Lake City, he immediately started looking for work, and he was sent to the Beehive House for an interview with Julina Smith, wife of the prophet Joseph F. Smith. His life story records she, Sister Smith, inquired if I could wash dishes. My limited experience in this art was a poor recommendation. Her next inquiry was about my ability to scrub and sweep. Again, my stock tumbled, but not only did I know nothing about keeping the home of the prophet next to godliness, but I was difficult to teach. But her third question determined my fate. It was, can you milk cows? Milking cows was my greatest skill. He got the job and moved into the Beehive House with the Smith family. Well, that's kind of cool. This is his father, right? Yeah, this is Elder Perry's father. Leslie Thomas Perry, yeah? That's so confusing that they're both named El Tom. Okay. After graduating from the LDS high school, Elder Perry's father enrolled at the University of Utah, where he became the 1910 senior class president and class valedictorian. Well, good for him. After graduation, he taught school and farmed for several years, but decided to become a lawyer. Well, good for him. Once again, let's have some ambitions, yeah? After attending the University of Chicago and Stanford University, wow, he moved to Rexburg, Idaho, where he became city attorney. Good for him. He later moved to Logan, Utah, where he practiced law, served as a bishop for 18 years, and stake president, or member of a stake presidency, for 20 years, and died in April 1966 at the age of 81. Cool. Elsie Nora Sani, Elder Perry's mother, was born and grew up in Logan, Utah. Her brother and sister, Alma and Emma, who were twins, 4 years older than she. I'm already learning something about Alma Sani. We will get to him when we talk about assistance to the 12. Remember her as being very competent and as having unlimited confidence in herself. They said she could undertake anything and succeed in it. So what we're saying is that they are also related to other general authorities. I find this interesting because this happens so often, and it really makes you wonder, what the relationship is between those two things, between being a relative of a general authority and becoming a general authority yourself. How connected are they? Is it just because you know them because of that, or is it because you want your relative to be in that position? I don't know, I'm just wondering. Nora's mother was ill most of her life, so from a very early age, Nora learned the value of hard work. Okay, that makes sense. From the time they were small, Emma and Nora did all the household tasks in the Sani home. Wow. Jeez. Nora attended Brigham Young College in Logan and in 1910 graduated in domestic science from Utah State Agricultural College, now Utah State University. That fall, she went to Rigby, Idaho to teach. While there, she met Leslie Thomas Perry, another teacher. Okay, so they met while they were both teaching at the same school then. And they fell in love and were married June 21st, 1911 in the Logan Temple. Elder L. Tom Perry was born 11 years later. Although their names are not identical, they adopted the use of junior and senior in order to avoid confusion. Makes sense to me. L. Tom, yeah? All right, here's a picture, a childhood picture of Elder Perry. He is adorable. Like, that is such a cute little kid. Oh my goodness. All right, Nora Perry was a woman who supported her husband and reared her children in the ways of the Lord. Elder Perry recalls kneeling with her by his bedside when she first taught him to pray. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, the son. I'm getting it mixed up with the father as well. That's really confusing. Okay, so the mother taught him to pray. That makes sense. Even when he was much older, she would walk up the stairs with him and his brothers and would wait at the door long enough to be certain that her sons had remembered to say their prayers. Elder Perry recalls his mother's frugality during the Great Depression. One of his jobs was to take out the garbage, which, according to him, was the easiest job on the block, because his mother found it a use for just about everything instead of throwing it away. Okay, so she didn't like to throw things away. She died in February 1951 at the age of 63. Okay? L. Tom Perry Sr. wrote of his beloved wife, "After her, Nora's passing, I felt her presence as strong and certain as I ever felt it in my life. She prompted my thoughts and actions, and I knew when she approved or disapproved of my acts." Now, that's kind of a lot of information about his family, like growing up, about his parents. But I did find that interesting, mostly because there's such a long legacy of being faithful in the church. Like, it goes back generations and generations, you know. That is really interesting, so. Semi-relevant. It is a little bit more than I would have liked to see, but, you know, it's better too much than too little, I guess, yeah? The home Tom and Nora made for their 7 children was a loving one, where they made the gospel a principal part of their lives. Once each day, Nora would set the backs of the chairs toward the table so that family prayer could be held. Set the backs of the... Oh, okay, so she turned the chairs around so you could kneel down and lean on the chair. Yeah, I guess. Bishop Perry's sons mowed the lawns around the chapel of the old Logan 9th Ward from the time that they were very young. Okay, I don't know why it was their job, but okay. Saturday afternoons, conditions permitting, the family went up to Logan Canyon to fish, play horses, or hike. Now that's irrelevant, is it not, when they're talking about their church service? Young Tom was committed to perfect attendance at church. One Sunday, he was so sick with tonsillitis that his parents decided the attendance record would have to be broken. All members of the family left for church except Tom and his mother. The family was surprised to see them enter the chapel only a few minutes after the meeting had started. Despite the fact that he was quite ill, he made every effort possible to be where he knew he was supposed to be. See, and like, since COVID happened, I feel like nobody really approves of this. You had tonsillitis and you're now going to give it to all the kids at church. You know what I mean? You wearing a mask? I doubt it. Tom had a paper route for a period of time. Sometimes during the winter months, delivering the papers became a very difficult task because of piercing cold and heavy snow. On one winter morning, when a blizzard had dropped over 20 inches of snow the night before, Tom returned home almost an hour later than usual. He had been nearly on schedule until he came to the last house on his route, a house located half a mile off the road. He trudged in the cold through the snow for almost an hour to deliver just one paper. Now, once again, admirable or foolish? What do you think? Personally, I wouldn't have done it, but hey, good for him, I guess. Tom was the neighborhood leader among the boys. No umpires were needed for their ball games because he had an unusual ability to arbitrate disputes. Okay, that's interesting. As a result, the games were remarkably free from contention. Good for him. His younger brother Ted, an attorney in Logan, notes, "During his boyhood, my brother was unselfish in his relations with his family and friends. We had confidence in his trustworthiness and knew if we were ever in trouble, he would rescue us. As a boy, he always talked about going on a mission, and I don't remember a time when he wasn't saving money for fulfilling that mission." Okay, so far it sounds like he's a very focused person. Like, no, this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it. Yeah, determined. I like that. As an explorer scout, Elder Perry played van ball, a modified form of volleyball. Okay, Weird, I've never heard of it. After placing second in the all-church tournament 2 years in succession, 1938 and 1939, Tom, then a senior in high school and captain of the team, led them to a first-place finish in the tournament in 1940. Slightly irrelevant, once again. He remembers his father, the bishop, excitedly leaping from the stands after the final point was made to hug him and lift him into the air with congratulations. Okay. The next year, 1941, the Logan Ninth Ward won the tournament. Their assistant coach was an enthusiastic L. Tom Perry Jr. Good for him. So he coached it the year after they won, yeah? Elder Perry attended Utah State Agricultural College in 1940-41 before leaving on his mission in January 1942. He tackled his duties in the Northern States Mission with the same enthusiasm he had for sports, and one of his favorite stories comes from those first few weeks as a missionary. A story he tells to encourage missionaries and also because he loves a good story. Okay, so he did serve a mission, because Boyd K. Packer didn't because of his military service. So that's interesting. So it sounds to me like Boyd K. Packer was drafted, but that L. Tom Perry wasn't. Yeah? Not sure why. I was assigned to serve in Columbus, Ohio, just after I had arrived in the mission field. I knew absolutely nothing about missionary work, and my senior companion, who had only been out for 3 months, wow, that's not a good idea, knew little more than I did. I had always been strong in the church, and though my testimony had never been tested, I surely thought that it could never waver. Well, my first full day of proselyting was spent going from house to house. We didn't have much success until a kind Southern Baptist lady invited us into her home. She had a profound knowledge of the Scriptures, and I'm afraid that my companion and I could not counter her persuasive arguments. I went home that day a converted Southern Baptist. The following day was not much better. I went home a converted Methodist, and the next day I was swayed toward the Lutheran faith. I finally decided that this kind of thing should not be happening to a Mormon missionary. I decided that before I could teach and bear testimony about the gospel, it was first necessary that I know something about it myself, which is precisely why they have the Missionary Training Center today. My companion and I lived on the top floor of a 4-story rooming house. The landlady had granted us the privilege of using the kitchen, which was in the basement. I decided that each night I would go down to the kitchen after my companion had retired to bed and prepare a talk, beginning with the first 4 principles and ordinances of the gospel. Okay. The first night I studied and prepared a talk on faith that I presented to my audience, a mouse that I had coaxed out of his hole with a cracker. He stared at me for a minute, picked up the cracker, and went back into the hole. The following night the subject was repentance. The mouse came out and listened to me for some time longer than the night before, and then returned to his hole. I was making progress. The third night I came down and filled the dishpan with water and washed some dishes before I prepared my talk on baptism. Again, my friend the mouse came out of his hole to hear my presentation. He stood there and stared at me the whole time, and when I was finally finished, he walked back to the hole in deep thought. I was a bit proud of myself as I walked upstairs, knowing I had really impressed my audience. It's so silly. The next morning, my companion and I went downstairs to prepare breakfast, and I noticed that I had not emptied the dishpan of water I'd used the night before. I was greatly surprised when, at the bottom of the pan, I found my friend the mouse. My little talk had really made an impression. In his stupor of thought, he must have crawled into the pan. Baptism by immersion. It's so silly. Oh, gosh. All right. Lowell Durham, then a member of the branch presidency in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and presently a professor of the Department of Music at the University of Utah, recalls his first encounter with Elder Perry. I have the same first name, yeah? There were no missionaries during our first months in Iowa. Then, as we awaited meeting time in the old Roosevelt Hotel one Sunday, in strode 2 giants, who loomed 6'4" into the stratosphere above the small band of saints. This was our introduction to Elder Tom Perry and his companion, Elder Clayton Wilkinson. Not only did Elder Perry impress us with his physical stature, but he immediately found a place in the hearts of all for his forthrightness, enthusiasm, naturalness, and obvious honesty and conviction of what he was doing. Yeah, I think enthusiasm is a good word for him. Yeah, he's an enthusiastic person, yeah? But it's also funny to me that he's so tall. Like, he is 6'4", yeah? Bruce R. McConkie, we spoke about last week, was 6'5", I believe. Marvin J. Ashton was also around that height, although they didn't actually say how tall he was, but he towered over Spencer W. Kimball and was half a head taller than LeGrand Richards, so I'm guessing he was at least 6'2". And so it's interesting that several of the last few have been very tall. I'm not sure why that is, but it's probably a coincidence, but it's very funny to me. The Tall People Club, I guess. While in Cedar Rapids, elders Perry and Wilkinson participated on the Cedar Rapids YMCA volleyball team, with approval of the mission president. In 1943, this team went to the national finals. Elder Perry was selected as the outstanding player of that tournament. Good for him. So he's good at volleyball. Good job. And bandball, whatever that is. 6 weeks after he returned home from his mission, Elder Perry was drafted into the armed service. He volunteered for duty in the Marine Corps and was with the first occupation troops to enter Japan. That's what I said. Yay, I was right about that. While on the island of Saipan, located in the Pacific, he and his companions built a small chapel. Later, in Nagasaki, he touched the hearts of the congregation of Japanese people when he led a group of servicemen in rebuilding a Protestant chapel. Yeah, I remember that story. When they were transferred to Sasebo, I don't know how to pronounce that, over 100 members of that congregation lined up along the tracks, and as the train went by, touched the hands with Elder Perry and his companions to show their gratitude. He's told this story before. That's the one I was remembering. But yeah, it turns out Boyd K. Packer did something very, very similar. So, interesting. Following his release from the Marine Corps in the fall of 1946, Elder Perry returned to Logan and Utah State Agricultural College. The stake leaders called him to serve as secretary of the Cache Stake MIA. One of his responsibilities was to take attendance of those from the various wards at Stake MIA meetings. On one such occasion, he saw a beautiful young lady, Virginia Lee, seated at the back of the congregation. Okay. By his own admission, he did not have his mind on the attendance records for the remainder of the evening. He met Virginia through a mutual friend following the meeting. Okay, their courtship began with a date on New Year's Eve, 1946, and they were married in the Logan Temple by President L. Ray L. Christiansen on July 18, 1947. During their companionship over the last 27 years, they were blessed with 3 children, Barbara, Lee, and Gay. Yeah, so Lee Perry is his son. I was confused about that because I thought his first name was Lee as well, but it's Lowell. So I apologize for getting that wrong. But Lee makes sense, especially since it was his wife's maiden name, but it's also a first name, so they went ahead and used it as a first name. Yeah. And since the other 2 names are typically feminine, I'm assuming that they have 2 girls and a boy. But they are also very dated names, Barbara, Lee, and Gay. Yeah. I don't know of many women named Gay today, or even Barbara, for that matter. So, yeah, very dated names. While attending Utah State Agricultural College, Elder Perry studied business and was graduated, I hate that phrase, in 1949. He graduated. He wasn't graduated. I am being graduated, you know? Like, I graduated, you know? It's an active verb. He did graduate work in finance the following year. Okay, so he studied business and finance, okay? During his sophomore and junior years, he served as president of the Independent Students Association. The 1947 yearbook notes that he is likable, friendly, Delta Phi, became a campus landmark between classes waiting for Virginia, is looked up to by almost everyone. Is that a tall person joke? Was ISA, Independent Student Association, Prexy for this year and re-elected for next. On December 20th, 1949, the Perrys became the proud parents of their first child, a daughter, Barbara. Well, they just mentioned that they had 3 kids. Okay, I am going back because I realized I forgot to show a picture. So, let's see. This is a picture of the Logan 9th Ward Van Ball team of 1940. Elder Perry is seated in the center of the front row, holding the ball. Oh yeah, look at that broad smile. He has the big, broad smile with the big teeth. Yeah? That makes sense. It is hard to recognize him, though. If they hadn't told me who it was, I wouldn't have been sure. All right, and then this one is both Elder Perry and his missionary companion, Elder Wilkinson, were 6 feet 4 inches tall. That's kind of fun, that you can basically share clothes with your companion, you know. And then there's this picture, Elder Perry with his family as a youngster. Top, Lowell Tom. Okay, that's him, yeah. Mignon. I'm not sure if that's how they pronounce their name. Theodore Sawney. Bottom, Zeta, Leslie Thomas, Robert, Leslie, Elsie, Nora, Sonny, and Gay. Okay, so he had a sister named Gay, and then he had a daughter named Gay. I wonder if he was close to that sister. Yeah? And then this picture is Elder Perry as a Marine in 1944. Look at that big smile. He has a big teethy smile. Yeah? So, in fact, his family portrait, with his mouth closed, I wonder if he was instructed to close his mouth. Two of the sisters have their mouth open, but he is like, no, your smile's too big. Close your mouth. I don't know if they did or not, but it's just funny to see that. All right, Elder Perry's business career began in 1951 with the C.C. Anderson Company of Allied Stores, Inc. in Boise, Idaho, where he was the internal auditor. Okay, makes sense because he studied financing, so he would be qualified to audit something. Their son Lee was born there April 29th, 1951. 6 months later, Elder Perry was transferred to Lewiston, Idaho, where he became controller of the C.C. Anderson store. In 1953, he was offered a position as controller with Broadway Hale, Inc., and moved to Sacramento to assume responsibilities in that city. It was there that Gay was born on March 9th, 1958. Okay, I do like that they're explaining where they were when his children were born. I kind of like that. He remained with Broadway Hale until 1962, when he and his family moved to New York, where he became controller of Associated Merchandising Corporation and vice president and secretary-treasurer of AMC? Is that AMC? Wholesale Corporation, I think. In 1966, the Perry family moved to Boston, where Elder Perry assumed the position of vice president of finance for the Lechmere Sales Corporation. He became treasurer of R.H. Stearns, a department store chain in Boston, 6 months prior to his call as an assistant to the Council of the 12. Okay. You know, when they were, like, listing off his siblings and being like, this person, you know, was very successful and whatever. He sounds successful to me. Like, I'm not sure why they would say, oh, and he surprised us. Because it sounds to me like he was very successful. And that he was a hard worker. Like, I don't understand why anybody would describe him as being like, oh, the surprise child. And he's not a surprise. He's a hard worker and determined. Yeah, straightforward kind of person. And he was quite successful. I mean, look at all the places that he'd worked and, like, all working in finance and as controllers and stuff. Like, dude, that's a very responsible position. I don't get it. Anyways, Elder Perry gives credit for his business success to the principles he learned from leadership responsibilities in the church. Telling of one of his early experiences, he says, "When I was a young man in my late 20s, I was offered the position of controller in a small store in central Idaho after only 6 months' experience in the retail business. I worked a month in this new position before my family could come and join me. During that month, I almost lived at the store. Working until the early hours of the morning was a common occurrence as I attempted to keep up with the workload that I had been assigned. I was having a desperate time trying to learn a new job and keep pace with the responsibilities I had been given. Just after my family arrived, a car pulled up in front of our home evening, and I was invited to visit with a member of our stake presidency and a member of our ward bishopric. I was shocked. The bishop's counselor was being called as the new bishop, and he had selected me as a second counselor. Oh gosh, okay, so young married, but I guess he was a little bit older than was average in those days because he had just returned from the war, yeah? So, probably late 20s, yeah? That's still a responsible position. My first reaction was to say, no, I am too busy, but the training of my parents soon rang louder than my first reaction, and I agreed to serve." The training of my parents. Interesting way of putting it. This first experience in the bishopric was the best education I have ever received in organization and management. I found the Lord's way was transferable to business. As I practiced the techniques taught me in church service, I became more efficient in my business assignments. I soon found myself with more time for my family, church, and business responsibilities. Cool. I like that. William T. French, chairman of the board of First National Stores, Inc., has said of his former business associate, L. Tom Perry, "I would say that the principal difference between Tom Perry and anyone else with whom we were associated was his enthusiastic and continual demonstration of his Christian faith." Okay. He always knew that today's problems were relatively unimportant in the total scheme of things as he went about vigorously and joyously solving them. That's cool. Like, here, let's take a quick look at this picture as well. This is Elder Perry is welcomed to his seat as a member of the Council of the 12. So he's being welcomed by Marvin J. Ashton and Bruce R. McConkie, if I am not mistaken. So the person shaking his hand is Marvin J. Ashton, and the one right next to him is Bruce R. McConkie. And they are all very tall. You can see that. Remember that Elton Perry is 6'4", and he's sitting next to the 6'5" Bruce R. McConkie. Yeah? Now it's hard to tell it's Marvin J. Ashton because of his, angle right there. He might be, slightly raised up off of his seat. But yeah, he's also quite tall. You can tell, the three of them. The tall group, the tall team, I don't know. Cool. All right. William M. Sanderson, president of R.H. Stearns Company, said of his short association with Elder Perry, his extreme dedication to everything he did was respected in his work as well as in his church activities. The warmth of his personality enabled him to fit in quickly, and he was very well liked by all. He left here an impression of devotion to his religion and his family, for which we all greatly admired him. Elder Perry's business career has prepared him for his present assignments as chairman of the church's Personnel Committee, Budget Committee, Data Processing Committee, and Bicentennial Committee, and as member of the Expenditures Committee and the Church Education Committee. That's a lot of committees. Elder Perry's church service has been extensive, especially in the outlying areas of the church. He served as second counselor in the bishopric in Lewiston, Idaho for 2.5 years. He recalls staying up many nights, all night, with this enthusiastic ward group canning fruit as a stake welfare project. You did that in the middle of the night? That's weird. Okay. He was called to serve as a member of the Stake High Council in Sacramento on the same day in 1958 that his daughter Gay was born. Gosh, that was a busy day. During this time, he also taught an early morning seminary class, and even today remembers an experience he's had with a non-member girl who participated in the class. Every morning she threatened not to come back the next day, but when the year ended, she had a perfect attendance record and was baptized soon afterward. That's cool. I like that cute story. There is an insert of a picture right here. Elder Perry is a member of the Sacramento, California East Stake Presidency in 1961. And he is the tall one, towering over everybody else. All right, in 1961, Elder Perry was called as second counselor in the American River Stake, now Sacramento, California East Stake Presidency, and served until he and his family moved east in June of 1962. In New York, Elder Perry first served as stake president and later as a member of the High Council. In 1964, he and his wife served as World's Fair missionaries at the Mormon Pavilion, where Elder Perry was known for his great ability to sell copies of the Book of Mormon. Okay. A week and a half after arriving in the Boston area in 1966, Elder Perry was called as first counselor in the Weston Ward Bishopric. Okay. In 1968, he was called as a member of the stake presidency and became the president of the Boston Stake, now Boston, Massachusetts Stake, in January 1970. Okay. During his leadership, the Boston Stake was authorized to pilot the Seminary Home Study Program and was the first stake in the church authorized to host what has become known as young adult conferences. Okay, so that was only a few years ago when this article was written. President Perry was a man greatly loved and respected in the Boston Stake. He served the Lord and the members of the church in that area diligently. He saw a great deal of talent among the people in the wards and branches of the Boston area, and through guiding this talent and allowing it to express itself, the church blossomed under his leadership. President Perry was greatly loved by the members of the LDS Students Association in the New England region. Just prior to his departure, they gave him the King Benjamin Award for his enthusiastic and understanding service. I don't know what the King Benjamin Award is, but that is pretty cool sounding. In October 1972, after nearly 22 years of service in the outlying areas of the church, Elder Perry was called to be an assistant to the Council of the 12. In that capacity, he was called to serve as an associate managing director of the Melchizedek Priesthood MIA. It is interesting that a man who had so much to do with developing programs for college-age youth and special interest groups in the Boston Stake was called upon to be a pioneer in this program on a church-wide basis. Elder James E. Faust, Managing Director of the Melchizedek Priesthood MIA, comments, President Harold B. Lee, in his charge to the managing directors, Elder Marion D. Hanks, Elder L. Tom Perry, and myself, told us to add the flesh to the bones of inspiration which he had received, and to be innovative, bold, and creative. Elder Perry is an original thinker. His great gift, along with his wealth of experience in business and in the church, makes him particularly effective. He is courageous and persevering. His experience with modern business techniques makes him invaluable in helping the church leaders provide the most modern business techniques to the administration of the work of the Lord. His greatest skills, however, are his people skills. His warmth, his understanding, his friendliness, his courtesy, his kindness, and his graciousness make him a very welcome member of any group or meeting in which he is involved. Now, I'm actually not super familiar with the Melchizedek Priesthood MIA. I think that was mostly for young men, like adults, but like not very old, like under 30 maybe. But I'm not sure because, like I said, I'm not super familiar with that. I know the Aaronic Priesthood MIA was for the young men. But, anyway, so yeah. So I'm not quite sure what that all entailed. As Elder Perry's son, okay, this is the author speaking, I have had the privilege of a special relationship with him, It seems to me that it would be impossible for anyone to really know my father without first understanding the kind of man he is in the home with his family. My mother related how he gained a testimony of the importance of the family. As a financial executive in the retail business, Tom worked long, hard hours. At Christmas time, he literally worked day and night. In addition, he held positions of leadership in the church and tried to do his part in the communities in which we lived. He made a real effort to make his limited time with the family count in quality. Nevertheless, the children may have felt a little cheated at times. After living in California for several years, Tom received an employment offer from a firm in New York City. After asking for inspiration and direction from the Lord and discussing the pros and cons of this venture, we decided it would be right to accept this opportunity. Upon receiving confirmation from our Heavenly Father, we traveled across the country with our family to the East Coast. We started looking for a home in New Jersey and kept looking all the way through the state of New York and into Connecticut. Finally, in the beautiful state of Connecticut, we found our dream home on a little secluded, winding country lane, tucked back in the woods. We all fell in love with it. Tom said, well, now the thing to do is test the commuting time. So early the next morning, he caught the New Haven train for New York City. He returned later in the afternoon with a disappointed look on his face. It had taken 1.5 hours to commute to his office. He told the children, well, I guess you'll have to choose between this home and me. If we live here, it will take all my extra time to commute back and forth. The children dejectedly looked at one another, and then, with only a moment's hesitation, one piped up and said, we'll take the home, Dad. We probably won't see you anyway. Even though the statement was made partly in jest, Tom got the message and took it seriously. We moved to Scarsdale, where the commuting time was 35 minutes. Tom made sure he had every Saturday off, and we tried to make this a family day. I think Tom realized the great importance of having a balance in life and not letting his professional work monopolize too much of his time. Later, when he was stake president in Boston, he counseled the men of the priesthood to fill out a calendar each month, and the first item to be placed on that calendar should be a date with their wives each Friday evening, then family home evening every Monday, then priesthood meeting, sacrament meeting, home teaching, etc. However, the real test for Tom was yet to come. He was contacted by the president of a West Coast company who was most desirous of having Tom join their firm. We were reluctant to even consider leaving our beloved New England, so Tom made financial demands in salary and profit, sharing that he felt certain this company would not meet. To his surprise, they agreed to his terms and suggested he go to San Francisco to make final arrangements. When Tom returned home, he said to me, Ginny, I don't know why, but all during my flight to San Francisco I had the uneasy feeling that something wasn't right about this position. I was welcomed with cordial enthusiasm, and all my requirements were met. I was told that board meeting was held each Saturday morning. You know, I've had experience with board meetings before, and sometimes they last all day. Tom told the president of the company that past experience had taught him the importance of keeping a balance in his life. He must have time not only for his work, but adequate time for the family, church service, and community activity as well. If board meeting was on Saturday, it would be necessary for him to have another day during the week to devote to his family. Understandably, he was told this would disrupt the entire store organization. When such a generous offer had been made, the company executive was shocked because Tom was so concerned about what to him was a small matter. If this were a testing experience, I feel that Tom passed with honor. We remained in New England for a season until the call from the church came to move west. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the story, but I actually had heard that story before about him finding like the perfect house in Connecticut and then realizing that the commute time was not acceptable to him. I think a lot of people can relate to that commute time. That's actually not even an unreasonable commute time, an hour and a half. But I guess if you are working, 10 to 12 hour days, then that doesn't leave you much time at all for anything, like even to eat dinner, So I'm guessing that that's the reason he doesn't work a regular 8-hour day. Yeah. But I feel like, I don't know, like I know that the original statement was kind of said as a joke, but I feel like you shouldn't have even gotten to that point. If you get to the point where your kids are joking about never seeing you because you're always busy, isn't it time to make a change? Yeah. Like, see if you can't rearrange things to make more time for your family. And also, if you don't have a good feeling about a job, it doesn't matter how generous the package is and how good the conditions are or whatever. You're allowed to say no. You just get a bad feeling and you're not sure that this is going to be the right fit, then don't take it. It's okay to say no. It's okay to reject things that aren't working for you. As long as you are still able to take care of yourself in the other position that you already had, like, you don't have to leave. My goodness. Just stay where you are for another year. It's not that deep. But yeah, I didn't want to interrupt the story, but that... Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You have to really think about those big kind of decisions, yeah? And really pray about it and make sure it makes sense, makes the most sense. My father is a man who believes in involving his family in his many-faceted activities. My mother has been his favorite typist and proofreader for years. Okay? I'm assuming that she does this willingly. In addition, she had read from the scriptures and church magazines and other articles of interest into a tape recorder so that he could use his driving time profitably. I like that. She made like little audiobooks for him. That's so cool. My sisters and I have done everything from running a mimeograph machine to correcting his grammar and spelling in his talks. Well, he needs someone to correct his grammar because he has a slightly strange grammar, yeah? By involving everyone, my family has made his callings and assignments a family affair, and this has molded us into a close-knit family, willing to share and sacrifice for the pleasures derived from working together. My father is a man who gleans satisfaction from simple things. He loves to work in the yard, he often does his own carpentry work, and is an avid sports fan. Our family has the greatest unity when gathered around the television set to watch the Boston Celtics, Bruins, or Red Sox play. Well, they're all Boston fans. I mean, I know they spent time there, but like he spent time in lots of places. He could have been New York fans, I don't know. My sister, Barbara, recalls a special memory of our father. I remember that when we first moved to New York, I had a hard time in school. One night, I was finally able to get all my homework done except for English. By that time, it was bedtime, and I was hoping I could get it done quickly. I read the assignment, and my heart dropped to my feet. Make an outline of the story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I had no idea how to make an outline. My father came up to say goodnight and found me crying. He told me not to worry, and said he would help me in the morning. When I got up the next morning, I found a sample outline on my desk. My father had left for work early, but he'd written a sample outline before he had left. I always had been taught to put things into my own words, so using this model, I was able to finish my assignment. The next evening, I had to do another outline, and I was able to do most of it myself. My father proofread it and told me how to improve it. This is just like him, always helping. I'm sorry, I have helped my children with homework before, and a lot of times you need somebody to sit next to you and explain it. So the fact that this was a very hands-off way to explain it, I don't really like it that much. But, I mean, I guess if it worked for her, I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence on that one. That was okay, and he was helping as much as he could, but considering how much he has to work, that he wasn't able to help more than that. But I do appreciate that he did put in an effort, yeah. My sister Gay, who is still in high school, remembers games and relay races of the Weston Ward daddy-daughter parties, where father's enthusiasm almost always made them winners. She anticipates daily the frantic race she has with him to get to the sports section of the newspaper as delivered. Their discussions of Red Sox performances has become a finely tuned science. She is thankful for those delicious pancake breakfasts that her father prepares for her at 6:15 a.m. before she runs off to school. Well, that is cute. He makes breakfast for the kids? That's adorable. Like, I love that. When my father was a high counselor in the Sacramento area, I would accompany him on his speaking assignments as his timekeeper, a position I felt was very important. He would give me his watch, and I would sit in the center of the congregation, a few rows from the front. We used the signs of the three monkeys: see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. If he wasn't standing straight, I would cover my eyes. If he was speaking too loudly, I would cover my ears, and just before his time was up, I would cover my mouth. Since those early days, I have heard my father speak many times. I have observed the increased power with which he speaks. I have felt the special spirit he brings with him every time he stands before a congregation. It has always impressed me that my father has never challenged a congregation to do anything that he does not do himself. This is a testimony to me of his profound integrity. It is so easy to teach and expound correct principles, but the logic behind living the commandments is inherently convincing. The real discipline, the true measure of a man's character, comes when he can practice those principles at the same level at which he preaches them. From what I have observed, my father does exactly that. Through his years of service in many positions of responsibility, Elder Perry has continued to grow with an eye single to the glory of God. Through abundant enthusiasm, he has inspired many others to serve and grow. He has maintained a childlike love for all, which has enabled him to be empathetic to those in need and joyous over the achievements of others. He has selflessly centered his purpose in the gospel, bringing his family, friends, and others whose lives he has touched closer to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now he is an apostle, a special witness of Christ, and has an opportunity to do the same for members and non-members throughout the world. All right, let's take a quick look at some pictures because I skipped a few on my way down. Just a couple, though. Okay, there's this one. The Perry family, top, daughter Barbara, holding her son Terry, son-in-law Terry Hawes. Okay, so Terry Jr., yeah. Daughter Linda Gay. Wait, what? Holding her son Terry, son-in-law Terry Hawes, daughter Linda Gay. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, Linda Gay is the daughter of Barbara, yeah? So the top row is just Barbara's immediate family, her husband and two children who have quite an age gap, yeah. All right, I think that's right. All right. Elder and the late Sister Perry and son Lee Thomas. Wait, I'm confused again. Okay, they had a daughter named Gay, yeah? Was her name actually Linda Gay? Because they didn't say that before. So then the one on the right, on the top row, is actually their other daughter? I'm not sure. That's a very confusing way of wording it. I'm guessing that that's what it is. So you can see that Lee looks very much like his father, but that, and then their mother in the middle, and then the two daughters are on both sides on the top row. Yes? I think that's right. Where Barbara looks a lot like her mother, and then Gay is kind of halfway in between. I'm guessing that's Gay. I'm annoyed that her name is Linda Gay, but then other places it's just listed as Gay, and that's throwing me off. Sorry. Yeah, anyway. Elder Perry speaks at pulpit. Yeah. Alright. Obviously, since this was written in 1975, we are not finished. And L. Tom Perry lived a lot longer than that since he died in 2015. So let's take a look at his Wikipedia article, see if we can fill in some gaps. But I did really like that article. I think it was very thorough. It was just that it's not up to date is all. So we're missing, what is that, 40 years? And that's kind of a long time to just straight up be missing out of there. All right. Lowell Tom Perry, Lowell, not Lee, yeah, August 5th, 1922 to May 30th, 2015, was an American businessman and religious leader who was a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS Church, from 1974 until his death. Early life. Perry was born in Logan, Utah, to Leslie Thomas Perry and his wife, Elsie Nora Sawney. Perry, Utah is named for Perry's ancestor, Gustavus Adolphus Perry, and his family, who were among the first settlers in that area, which they did mention. From the time of Perry's birth until he was 18, his father was bishop of their LDS ward in Logan. From 1942 to 44, Perry served as an LDS missionary in the Northern States Mission, headquartered in Chicago. He spent about 10 months in Marion, Ohio, where he was instrumental in forming a branch in that city. He also served for part of his mission based in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. After returning from his mission, he joined the United States Marine Corps and was assigned to the 2nd Marine Division. While in training, Perry attended church activities at the Adams Ward in Los Angeles. Odd detail, but okay. Perry was then part of the American forces that landed on Saipan and remained there for about a year. While there, he participated in the construction of an LDS chapel on the island. He was among the United States troops sent to occupy Japan after the war. While in Nagasaki, Perry coordinated a group of Marines to help rebuild a local Protestant church. Yeah, good for him. Education. Perry graduated from the Utah State Agricultural College, now Utah State University, in 1949, with a bachelor's degree in finance. While he was a student at USU, Perry served as president of the university's Associated Students. Employment. Perry's first job out of college was working as administrative assistant for the USU Extension Service. He also took graduate courses in finance during this time. I believe they did mention this. In 1950, before his second child was born, Perry took a Christmas retail season job with C.C. Anderson's CCA department store in Logan, Utah. CCA was a division of Allied stores, okay? In early 1951, Perry took a job with CCA at its corporate headquarters in Boise, Idaho. Later, in 1951, CCA decided to appoint controllers in each of their stores. Perry was appointed as controller for the Lewiston, Idaho store. When he first took this position, he lived in Lewiston, Idaho, but later moved to Clarkston, Washington. That's just across the border. My grandmother used to live in that area, so I do happen to know that they are basically twin, cities, and they just are across the river from each other. Clarkston is significantly smaller than Lewiston, Idaho, but it is also not a small town either, so. He was involved in business jobs that took him to Washington, California, New York, and Massachusetts. Perry was in the retail business during this time in Boston, Massachusetts. He became a fan of the Boston Red Sox and threw out the first pitch at a Red Sox game on May 8, 2004. That's cute. I like that. Early church service. In addition to his mission to the northern states, Perry served as an LDS group leader while on Saipan. He oversaw more convert baptisms in this position than while on his mission. I believe that he was also exposed to more people who weren't members, I'm guessing. He also served in the LDS Church as an early morning seminary teacher, as a counselor in a bishopric, high counselor in the stake presidency, and as president of the church's Boston, Massachusetts stake. In early 1963, after moving to Scarsdale, New York, Perry was called simultaneously as a member of the New York State's High Council, stake mission president, and special assistant to the president of the church's Eastern States Mission. In these assignments, he worked with Bernard P. Brockbank, who was an assistant, I believe, and Wilburn C. West, I don't know him, in overseeing the creation and implementation of the LDS Church's pavilion at the 1964 New York World's Fair. Okay, it's kind of random, but okay. General authority. Perry was called as a general authority and assistant to the Quorum of the 12 Apostles in 1972. The death of church president Harold B. Lee created a vacancy in the Quorum of the 12, when Spencer W. Kimball, who had been serving as quorum president, became church president. Perry was sustained as a member of the 12 on April 6, 1974, and was ordained an apostle on April 11, 1974. In 2004, Perry was asked by church president Gordon B. Hinckley to serve as president of the church's Europe Central area. Oh, see, I didn't know that. Headquartered in Frankfurt, Germany. This was a position normally held by a member of the 70. Okay, this made Perry one of the most senior officials of the church ever to be stationed away from Salt Lake City. While serving in this capacity, Perry initiated a more proactive institute program that emphasized meeting the social and intellectual needs of young single adult church members. In 2015, he met with Barack Obama and other LDS church leaders at a meeting in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then he died shortly thereafter, yeah? Family. Perry married Virginia C. Lee in Logan Temple on July 18, 1947. They had 3 children together. Perry's son, Lee Tom Perry, is an academic and was the dean of the Marriott School of Business at Brigham Young University from 1998 to 2005. Okay. Virginia Perry died of cancer in December 1974. Yeah. Their daughter Barbara died of cancer in 1983. Oh, that's really sad. Oh, he outlived his daughter? Oh, I'm sad. Oh, they don't mention gay, though. In 1976, Perry married Barbara Dayton. I figured that he would remarry. But that means he remarried a woman who had the same name as his daughter. That is a little strange, like the 2 Barbaras, you know. Death. In April 2015, Perry was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Ooh, that's a bad one, too. In May 2015, the church reported the aggressive cancer had spread, and Perry died the following day on May 30th, 2015. At the time of his death, he was the 3rd most senior and oldest living apostle in the church. Yeah, he was the oldest because he was older than Boyd K. Packer. Yeah. His funeral was held on June 5th, 2015. Perry was buried in the Salt Lake City Cemetery next to his first wife, Virginia, and his daughter, Barbara. Oh, that's kind of sad. It kind of had a sad ending. I mean, they all end in death, but like that one was a little bit on the sadder side, you know. Okay. Books. L. Tom Perry, 2011, Family Ties, A Message for Fathers. Okay. And then 1996, Living with Enthusiasm. I've heard of that one, but I don't think I've read it. Honors, Humanitarian Award for Service to Others. Catholic Community Services of Utah, L. Tom and Barbara Perry. Well, good for them. Okay. And here are some references. Elder L. Tom Perry, Leader Biographies, Official Biographies for Leaders in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Newsroom, LDS Church. Okay, so it's from their website. And then Peggy Fletcher Stack, 4 April 2011, Meet the Unassuming Optimistic, LDS Apostle. Salt Lake Tribune. Okay. I really enjoyed that. I think that was really interesting. And I really learned a lot about L. Tom Perry. And I have to admit that I didn't know half of this. Now, there is one thing that I will say about him, and that is that he didn't have really a super extraordinary life until he was called as an assistant to the 12. Before that, I would say that he works in finance and that he was a very hard worker, and he tries to balance everything and spend time with his family and do church stuff and yeah, things like that, until suddenly he was almost out of the blue, was it not, when he was called as an assistant to the 12. The only major calling he had before that was stake president. Like, how many stake presidents do you know suddenly get called into, I mean, the equivalent today would be like the presidency of the 70. Yeah? That's not usually the leap that you take, yeah? Like, I feel like he kind of skipped a step, and I'm wondering why he was particularly called compared to other people. I feel like that was an unexpected call. Like, calling him to the Quorum of the 12 after that, sure. Like, they very often took people from the assistants. But, like, I'm surprised that he was called as an assistant. I think that was one of the surprise calls of the day. Let me just check really quick to see if that was his first talk. Yeah, his first talk that he gave in conference was October 1972, which was when he was called as an assistant to the 12. Makes perfect sense to me. So no, he didn't speak before that in conference. Like, I'm wondering why the leadership of the church were aware of him. Yeah? Like, it's just a question. I'm not criticizing them at all. It's just a surprise that they chose him. But past that surprise, I don't see anything at all negative here at all. Like, there's no reason why they wouldn't call him. It's just a surprise that they did. Anyway, but I found that very interesting. I was extremely entertained, and I hope you were too. And if you were, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.